First of all, it's wonderful to be here in this very beautiful city of Thessaloniki to attend this amazing meeting. So my lecture today was focused on painful diabetic neuropathy. It's a condition that affects around a quarter of all diabetic people, and it can be extremely disabling. Patients have persistent pain in their lower limbs and sometimes in their hands that can stop them from going to sleep at night, can cause depression and anxiety, and they can lose their job. So it's a major problem. And what I looked at is, are we diagnosing these patients early enough, number one? And number two, how can we manage these patients?
And what are the most significant signals that they have to understand that something goes wrong?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think these patients, first of all, we're diagnosing them late. So they come to the doctor to say, I have pain. In fact, what we should be doing is screening these patients using point-of-care devices. We have modern devices now, handheld devices that can measure nerve conduction in the feet. We have other equipments called pseudo-scan, in which you place your hands and your bare feet on metal plates, and it can diagnose nerve damage early. And using these techniques, we can diagnose a lot of patients with diabetic nerve damage, and then by giving them a small questionnaire, we can identify those that have pain. So in Sheffield, we have a one-stop screening service where patients come and have everything done for them. So they come, we put eye drops in their eyes. While the eye drops are working for retinal photography, we take their shoes and socks off and we examine their feet for nerve damage using these point-of-care devices. And then we do blood tests on these patients for A1C and other things, and blood pressure. So we do everything for these patients. And using this technique, we found 25% new painful diabetic neuropathy. And this disease is very common, and you can diagnose these patients early if you go for a one-stop screening service as we have in the UK. It's published, and you can read our papers. So that's one significant point. The second significant point is, previously diabetic neuropathy was considered a peripheral neuropathy affecting the peripheral nerves. What we found recently is, in fact, very interesting. Actually, diabetic neuropathy is not just peripheral, it is central. It affects the brain. The neurochemistry of the brain is altered in painful diabetic neuropathy, in chronic pain. And these patients have continuous pain, and that is feeding into the brain and changing the neurochemistry. So using advanced magnetic resonance imaging, we can identify people that have painful diabetic neuropathy. We recently published in Diabetes these changes in the brain pain processing in those that have pain and those that don't have pain. So that is really giving us a new insight into painful diabetic neuropathy, and maybe down the line for new treatments for painful diabetic neuropathy.